Shana Tova, everybody.
It's traditionally during Yom Kippur that we stay at synagogue and we find a way to study. And there's no set halacha as to how we do this, but I think it'd be an incredible opportunity to hear from an individual who proudly wears his Jewish identity. In a world in which we live in, we've seen some recent difficulties towards the Jewish people, what's going on in Vermont, University of California, Berkeley. So the more visibility we have regarding Jewish life, the state of Israel, and we have people like Coach Pearl, I think the more that we can make a difference. So the purpose of this discussion is that we know who Coach Pearl is. He's the head coach of Auburn University. I'm not going to ask who is a War Eagle fan here, but I learned one thing, and I don't know if you Auburn football fans are going to like this, but because of you, Coach, they're saying that Auburn is no longer a football school, but a basketball school. And the second part in this conversation, we'll have a time to ask Coach, what Judaism means to him, why Israel, and this is a man who has a hard time saying no. And so we are grateful on behalf of Temple Emanu-El, our board, our staff, and our team, just to watch the documentary about your recent trip to Israel and to take this intimate session with you. So we're going to play the video right now. Is that okay?
That's wonderful. Yes. So happy to share it with you.
Where Jesus was born, you know what I'm saying? Trying to get as close to God as possible.
So I think the biggest takeaway, like we talked about before, is what kind of neighbor do you want to be? Do you want to be the neighbor that risks your own family's life to save your neighbor and their children? Or do you want to be the neighbor to point them out and say, they're right there? And I'm very proud of you guys because I know the kind of neighbor that you are. And I kind of know the neighbor that you want to be. So I want to thank the people here at Yad Vashem for what you do, and to the guides for helping us learn. And we promise that that when we go back home, that we will continue to tell the story.
First Auburn basketball player to enter the Dead Sea. Let's get it, baby. It's time to flow.
Dead Sea Diamond.
28 karat.
They're trying to kill me out here.
Just throw your feet up, Will.
Oh!
Come on, dog. Mama, we made it. How do you go? How do you get back up? Ramming speed. Local news. Turn upside down the right way. There you go. You got the wrong way. I can't even read in Hebrew.
That's crazy. Yes, sir. Mud, baby.
Hey, Dougie. I'll start. Come on, man. I'll start. Disciple deal. the Jordan River. Finna help baptize my teammates.
It's a blessing. It's a blessing. I'm just so thankful for everything, man. Just thankful.
Day 4 Israel. They got us walking in the smallest tunnel in the world.
You know what I'm saying? About 95 degrees out here. Me and my boy Win. They trying to get like me. Dark and handsome.
War Eagle.
How much you just walk down feeling kind of holy?
Really, really wide. A lot of airflow. Perfect.
Messing up. No, Dylan Carver content only.
Just enjoying it, you know. Live life to the fullest. You only get to live once. Why not?
Nice chance talk right now.
Boy.
Okay, so here's the first question. From the proud state of Michigan and the head coach of the University of Michigan football team, you know who he is. He decided to take his team to Rome. Jim Harbaugh took the football team to Rome as a spiritual experience. I'm going to state the obvious that I don't think you have many Jews on your basketball team. Is that correct? So why decide at this moment in time to take your team to Eretz Israel?
Well, Rabbi, it's so nice to be with you this afternoon. And I remember when Paul talked about doing this program, I had said, Paul, I can't do it. It's Yom Kippur. I can't work on Yom Kippur. And then I called the rabbi, and the rabbi said, yeah, but coach, I work on Yom Kippur. And I said, you know what? You got a point. If it's okay for the rabbi to work, I guess it's okay for us to do a Zoom. I took it one step further. For the first time in my entire life, I actually traveled and came down to see my mom and dad. And so we're down, Stephen and Brittany and myself, we're down here in South Florida for the day of spending Yom Kippur with my parents. So we're breaking all the rules right now that I sort of grew up with. You know, growing up, born in 1960, growing up in Boston, I saw real racism. I saw real white, black, ignorance, hatred, violence. I saw real anti-Semitism. I felt it in my community. I felt it amongst some of my friends, their parents. And I was an athlete. And in athletics, we really didn't have any of it. It was shirts and skins. We played on the playground. We didn't care what color you were. We didn't care how you prayed. We just cared whether you could guard somebody or make a shot. And that's all we really saw. But our parents and everybody around us saw something different. And no matter where I've been in my life, you know, I like to say we all have a starting place. And so when did I start loving my Judaism? When did I start loving the state of Israel? I had a great role model in my family. My grandfather, my papa, was an Orthodox man. Even though he was a plumber, he was a tradesman. My grandparents kept kosher. I was bar mitzvahed. I had a bit of a foundation. And I will just never forget when I was 7 years old, my papa watching the television, which he rarely did. And he was watching TV one Friday night. He was in tears. And I asked him why he was crying. And he said, come on over here, sat on his lap. We watched the TV. It was pictures of Israel. And of course, it was the 6-Day War. And Papa was afraid to go to bed that night because when he woke up the next morning, Israel wouldn't be there. Papa came to this country when he was 11 years old with his younger brothers and sisters. He was the oldest of 4 children. And he was able to get out. But not everybody in his family was able to get out or could afford to get out. And he told me then that if Israel was a state then, like it was in 1948, way back in the 20s, that maybe there would have been a lot more Jewish people that would have been able to survive. So it was at that time that Papa explained to me that because of my faith and because of how I worshiped and because of how my family worshiped, we were murdered. I had to wrap my arms around that when I was 7 years old. And then you combine that with the fact that my Catholic friends are telling me that my people murdered their God, killed Jesus. And I got to wrap my arms around that at a young time. And I'm seeing racism and anti-Semitism in very ethnically divided neighborhoods. And then think about the fact that I'm an athlete and on my way to being a coach and a teacher, where I'm working on trying to put people together, where we can find things in common, while we and we can understand who our opponent is, and together we can accomplish so much more. As a coach and a teacher, that was just was my fabric. So then I began to go, as I got older, now wait a second. This Jesus guy, he was Jewish, like he was born Jewish. He was raised his entire life Jewish. I tell my Christian friend all the time, as I want to give him a little needle, I go, you guys always talk about wanting to be more like Jesus all the time. You want to be more like Jesus. How come you don't celebrate Passover? I mean, why don't you celebrate Sukkot or Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah? Because guess what? Jesus did every single year of his life. So to me, rather than looking at it, well, here are the things that make us different. The Jewish people didn't accept him as a Messiah, the Christians did. I look at him and say, wait a second, this guy was a rabbi, and he started the largest and one of the greatest religions in the world of all time. I'm sorry, but does anybody else not see the connection? Because that's all I can see is the connection and the same Father God. And you can take it back 1,000 years before that, or even for a couple thousand years before that, to the time of Abraham. And we all read the stories about what happened between Isaac and Ishmael. And we recognize how we went in different directions. But Abraham is still the father of all nations. So therefore, for me, as a gun in my fabric, that should make us, we may not be mishlocha, but we've got to be somewhat, we got to be related somehow, some way. And that's how I honestly feel. So no matter where I've been, Rabbi, I've worn my chai on the outside. And I've tried to get the people that in my world, whether it be, I went to Boston College, not Boston University, because Boston College was a Jesuit school, and there weren't a lot of Jewish kids there. And I wanted those kids to see somebody that was, for lack of a better word, proud to be Jewish, but also normal. Just normal. And so much of anti-Semitism or racism is a lack of exposure. We've never, and so in sports, we're exposed together. So I went out there, took my chai, took my Judaism, me and about 4 or 5 Jewish kids, an entire Boston College, and I changed my little world. And so fast forward, I'm working as a basketball coach, and I'm in the African-American world because 95% of my players are Black. And I'm in the evangelical Christian world because I'm coaching in Auburn, Alabama. That's the world I live in right now. And I'm working to try to change or affect that word. I want to use the word change, but have an impact, have an effect on that world. And again, find ways to bring people together because, Rabbi, as you said, it's not that we're no longer a football school at Auburn. We're an everything school at Auburn. So whether it's basketball or softball or nursing or engineering, that's sort of how I honestly see it. And so the chance to take my team over there, we're not going to change we're not going to change how people that hate us feel. There are people that hate us. There are people that want Israel. They want the land. It's disputed, but it can be fought over. And there are people that out there publicly asking for our annihilation, our death. That sounds very familiar to what my papa said happened back in Europe. And history books said it happened. Well, guess what? There are still people alive right now that are saying it. I'll take them at their word if you don't mind. Like right now, outside the temple, you've got law enforcement right now. They're out there right now to keep you safe. I'm glad they're there. And last night, I not only thanked the police officer that was sitting outside of Beth Shalom in Auburn, where about 40 people were in there praying. I called the mayor and thanked him for being there, because we're such a small temple. We didn't pay for our security. They just provided it. That bothers me. And I know it bothers you. And so taking my players there, giving them a little bit of education before they came. My guys do read the Bible. And again, to me, the religion can be something that binds us all together. Like, we got lots of different but we pray to the same Father God. Let's start there. And so we took them on their tour of their Judeo-Christian roots, because that's what Christianity was based on, Judaism. That's the foundation of the Christian. The foundation of their religion is our faith. My players really didn't know that until reading the Bible and got through some study. They saw that. And then you bring them over there and you let them see it for themselves. It's a beautiful country with beautiful people. They made us feel so welcome and so glad that we were home in God's Holy Land. At that point, I didn't need to do a whole lot of ministering or arm twisting or motivational whatever. No, just see it, experience it. My student athletes are going to come back, and they felt differently about what they thought Israel was going to be like. They saw lots of different shapes and colors and diversity. They saw young soldiers, 18, 19, 20, loving their country so much they were willing to be soldiers to defend it. You remember when this country that I love as much as anything, my family, my God, my country, and yes, Israel. Remember when our young people would be willing to give their lives, many of you in this room, to defend this country? You don't think I'm grateful that I'm a Jewish basketball coach in Auburn, Alabama, and I'm able to pray and worship the way I'm able to? You don't think I thank this country for these opportunities? And don't turn around and tell my players, don't tell me that racism is an excuse for you not to be anything and everything you want to be. We elected Barack Obama twice as president. This is the land of opportunity. So be grateful for it. Love this country, because instead we all want to just find all the reasons why the country is awful and terrible. And we got issues, we got problems. And the rabbi's right. Anti-Semitism is on the rise, and it's on the rise on college campuses. And our young people aren't as equipped as we are, because we have a story that was closer to the Holocaust. You are in shul today. You've read the Torah. You're observing some of God's commandments. Many of our young people aren't as connected to their faith, and therefore not as connected to the state of Israel. And the last thing I'll just say on it, Rabbi, simply before is, look, Germany was a very it was a culturally rich, very well established place. It wasn't a third world country. And through the media and through social media and through economic oppression and nationalism and factors coming out of World War I, Hitler and his Nazis were able to allow that to happen. I personally, when we say never again, what can we do? You and I are not going to take up arms and never allow it to be again, although we do have our Second Amendment rights here in this country. But I'm going to do whatever I can to point it out. Thank God we have a safe haven in Israel that is able to defend itself. Because I see radicals all over the world that are calling for our annihilation, and there are some right here in this country. I got my eyes open. And yet the last thing we'll end with on this is this. Israel is doing so well right now. It's doing so well right now. If you've been there and you've seen Jerusalem, you know what I'm talking about. It is just, it has become a melting pot. It is a much safer place than it was before. Man, you can get closer to God there. You go to Tel Aviv and all the high tech and everything that's going on there. The country is beautiful. Israel is becoming a great, Israel is now the United States' greatest ally. And so there's a lot of really good things going on right there. And I'm grateful for those things. And Rabbi, that's why I took my team to Israel.
Thank you. That's a great answer. You have permission to plead the fifth on the next question, but I'm going to try and see if I can get an answer. For the past couple of years, we've seen the intersection of athletes and politics regarding the social ethos of what's going on in this country. Even in Hollywood, we've seen a lot of discourse and narrative. Many of my congregants will receive news information when certain universities adopt BDS, boycott, divest, and sanction resolutions against the state of Israel. We just saw the University of California, Berkeley, the law students passed an Israel-free, which is basically a Jew-free zone for speakers. We've seen a myriad of Jewish speakers being harassed on college campuses. And as much as I'm from Michigan and my wife went there for undergrad and for medical school, I kindly point out to her that's become a really hotbed against Jewish life. And in particular, there was one professor who wouldn't write a letter of recommendation for a young woman to study in Israel. And his punishment was he wasn't allowed to take tenure that particular semester. So my frustration is I wish the Jewish world would, in a way, care less what happens on the field and really say something to college presidents. But in your position as a proud Zionist, as a proud Jew at a major SEC university, is there any discussion among your ADs, your colleagues about what can we do for the well-being of Jewish life on campus? Because I've received emails from parents saying, what universities are safe to send our Jewish students to? And it's 2022 America. That's a conversation I thought we never would have had today. But you can plead the fifth, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, Rabbi, thank you. And again, I want to, I just want to say to all my brothers and sisters at Temple this morning, I wouldn't expect you to agree with everything I'm saying. And so therefore I'd ask your forgiveness and grace if I say something that either you disagree with, or if any way I offend you. I sincerely apologize. It's not my intention. I'll just open up my heart and tell you how I feel. And I know you'll forgive me if we feel differently about things. You know, it's just hard to imagine that in a college campus at a law school like Berkeley, they could come out and publicly talk about 9 different student organizations, many of them women organizations, going, no, we're going to have a Jew-free zone, an Israel-free zone. It's misinformed, and it's obviously dangerous. And don't you think that was very much the beginnings of what happened in pre-World War II Georgia, and so pre-World War II Germany, and so our young people are not as equipped to debate or put up a fight. When you use the word civil rights or social injustice, and you use those words amongst young people want to be a part of that. And so what they're being told and what they're being in the media is that Israel's an apartheid state, that Israel stole the land of the Palestinians. All right, look, what are the facts? The facts that are from the very beginning of time, Jews and Arabs lived in the land of Israel. They lived side by side. They just did. And as far as the history of the land is concerned, obviously the Jews have been expelled from the land on several occasions. But we returned. Obviously, when you go to Israel and you see the history, people want to deny, particularly, some that want the land, from the river to the sea, the Palestinians and some of the Arab world, they want to say it's theirs and not ours. Israel's been willing to share it from 1948 on. Israel has been willing to live side by side with another state, but the Palestinians have rejected that over and over again because they simply want it all, and they simply aren't willing to live. But every year that's passed, the offer of returning to some of their land, it's gotten worse and worse and worse for the Palestinians. Yet and still, right now on the ground in Judea and Samaria, that I grew up understanding was the occupied West Bank. By the way, the West Bank of the River Jordan, 80% of our Bible were stories and places that were written about what was the occupied West Bank, Judea and Samaria. 80% of the Old Testament. We were there, guys. That's where we were. We've come and we've gone, but we've been there, and they want it all back. Most. The BDS is a situation where right now in many areas of Judea and Samaria, including a beautiful community that I visited recently with Paul, and that was Ariel. I would very, very much like for Israel and for Judea and Samaria to a place where Israeli Arabs and Palestinians can live the best lives of any Arabs in the world. And it is possible. If you look at the 2 million Israeli Arabs that are in Israel right now, there are Supreme Court justices. Over 50% of the healthcare workers in Israel, I'm talking about doctors and nurses and caregivers, are Arab or Muslim. Over 50%. They're part of the government. Israel is a democratic society. The great challenge is there is a segment of the Palestinian population, because of the leadership of Hamas or the influence Iran or Hezbollah, the Palestinian Authority, that want it all back. And through the intifadas have basically turned Israel into a place where Israel either decides it's going to protect itself and its citizenry or not. And Israel chose to protect itself and its citizenry, and as a result, it is thriving. If we boycott and divest out of those areas, just like economically right now, the ones suffering the most from inflation are the ones that can least afford it. The ones that would suffer the most aren't the business owners, will not be the Israelis or the Jews. It'll be the Palestinian Arabs, who now will no longer have jobs, no longer have education, won't be able to have healthcare to take care of their families, because somebody over in this company decided that we're going to boycott Israel. You remember when they boycotted our shops? You remember we had to put yellow stars out in front of our businesses? Rabbi, I've got an idea. Next year, Auburn is playing football at Cal. Next year. And if Cal, University of California, Berkeley, continues to play a leadership role in having Jew-free zones, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to the game. I'm going to bring as many as my friends I can to the game, and I'm wearing a Jewish star, and it's going to say Yuden. And I'm going to walk anywhere I want to walk on that Cal Berkeley campus. I'm going to do the best I can to go talk to the Hillel. And you know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to ask all the other fans, the 20,000 other Auburn fans that are going to go to that game. Guess what they're going to do? You watch how many of them wear a yellow star. So they can't tell the difference between me and my brothers and sisters. That's how we point out what is wrong.
I have one more question for you before we open it up. We'll take it down a notch. I think coming from you, we have a lot of our teams watching at home via Zoom. And a lot of my colleagues face the difficulty of getting young people engaged, that they're choosing their chosen sport and cutting corners with their Judaism. You know best chances of playing Division I basketball, and you know best how hard it is to make it into professional basketball. So what message do you have for our kids watching at home that will cut corners for their chosen sport and instead of, Jewish pride? What is something that you could teach them as they try to balance a life and sport while maintaining their Jewish identity? And then we'll open it up.
Yeah, the whole thing about the Jewish identity, it's difficult. We want what's best for our children. We want our children to have great opportunities, and we don't want anything, including perhaps their Jewish identity, to hold them back. But I got to tell you, my son Stephen is on my staff, and and as is the case for all of my children, I have two right-leaning conservative sons. I have two left-leaning Democratic daughters, and I'm very, very proud. My parents are Democrats, and they're way more liberal than I am, and I'm very proud that we have a very, very diverse family. But we all identify with being Jewish, and it matters to me. It hurts us in recruiting sometimes, and we could easily, or as some, kind of see if we can blend in and not necessarily be so Jewish or not point it out so much. And it's really, really hard for our young people. Look, I don't know why God chose us, and I never liked it. I never actually really liked it. What did we do to deserve being chosen by God over anybody else? Why are we any better? Because I assumed as a younger person that because we were chosen, we were therefore chosen because we were better. And I don't know if that's the reason why God chose. Rabbi, I'm not going to get into your world. You know what? But somehow, Rabbi, how have we managed to hold on for so long? And maybe it is because of God had an idea of who we were, and whether we were proud or stubborn or hard-headed or, have 35 opinions or whatever it is that make us who we are. I'm very proud of my brothers and sisters, the Jewish people, for keeping God's traditions and passing it down from generation to generation. But we all worry, I do, about the younger generation and how they balance sports, their Jewish identity, their academics. Where can they go to college and be safe? I would just say, here's my line. We got to let the light shine on you. Like people that live in your neighborhoods, people in Birmingham, they know most of you are Jewish, and they know many of you are the Jewish leaders in the community. How you act, how you do business, what your family's all about. It's a reflection on the Jewish people. And so my advice to them is be loud and be proud, but understand there's responsibility. But there's also a real opportunity. Let's take advantage of the blessing. Let's take advantage that God's chosen us. Let's let the light shine upon us and do the very best we can.
Great answer. Okay, I'm going to open up. This is where I become Phil Donahue. I think this guy's okay. So I will do my best. I know how much time we have with Coach. Okay, so if your question is answered, you can email me, and then he's about to get really busy really soon, right? You go on your trips in November, right? Your basketball trips? Yeah, okay. So we'll see what we can do. Okay, Brett, you have the first question.
What was the reaction of the kids in Israel when they saw the Holocaust?
I'm going to paraphrase the question and make sure I get it right, because I'm maybe my internet's not as strong here, breaking up. What was my players' reaction to their visit to Yad Vashem and the Holocaust Museum? Is that what you're asking?
Yes. Right.
They were, my son Stephen puts it this way, sometimes, the players don't have very big attention span. Oh, squirrel, they get distracted really easily, right? They were locked in for 2 hours. They asked questions. Their mouths dropped. Their eyes watered. They felt for their teammate Lior and his family. They felt for Stephen and me. And they saw what we went through. And there was I think in many ways there was a connection. I don't think some of them has seen it that much. That's why it's amazing that we got a Holocaust educational center right here in Birmingham, right attached to the shul. Man, what a wonderful thing you guys have done there. And I'm so glad that so many of you and absolutely stepped up, and I'm very proud that my family did as well, because that Holocaust education is so very, very important. And I'm proud. I mean, we got so much to be proud of in Alabama. And look, I'm new to here. You guys are the ones that carried the water. You Jews in Birmingham have carried the water. The Jews in Montgomery have carried the water. And it's because of who you are and how you've lived your lives and the way you're respected in this state that let me come be the basketball coach at Auburn. In 1940, I believe it was 1943, the state recognized the Jews' right to have their own homeland way before the state was ever born. That was here in Alabama. And so y'all done amazing work, but we got a lot of work to do with my players, with our Christian friends, and as much with American Jewry as anybody. And I just pray that American Jewry will maintain a strong connection to Israel. And I know the last thing we want to do is talk about religion and politics, but that's all we're doing here is talking about religion and politics. And I tell my parents this, who are Democrats, and they've been lifelong Democrats, call them Kennedy Democrats, because we grew up in New England. I'm going to vote for lots of different reasons. But one of the major factors in how I cast my vote is how a congressman, governor, senator, or president treats Israel and the Jewish people. That's going to be as high on my list as almost anything else. And I worry that Israel must be a bipartisan issue. And so I tell my two Jewish liberal democratic daughters, and I tell my parents, I'm not trying to get you to be more conservative or change parties or anything like that. But the progressive side of the Democratic Party right now is not on the side of the Israelis or the Jewish people. They're not. I went to Washington, D.C., and I talked to Richie Torres, who is a young African-American, openly gay congressman. And he told me the two things in life that keep him up at night are, number one, all things China, and number two, the direction that the Democratic Party is going as it relates to its support of the state of Israel. And he is a progressive liberal Democrat, but he believes and he loves Israel. And he comes at it from a religious standpoint. We've got to make sure that Israel stays a bipartisan issue. And we need those wonderful, freedom-loving liberal Democrats to be able to stand up to their party. Just like you're standing up, they need to stand up and make sure that Israel and the Jewish people, that the right story is being told, because the right story is not being told right now. and the young people are buying into it. It's dangerous.
Hi, I have a comment more than a question. I want to tell you first how much I admire you. One of the reasons is you remind me of my great uncle Abe Saperstein, who started the Harlem Globetrotters. And both of you are using your positions to be ambassadors to the world. And I just want to thank you.
Thank you.
Seriously? You have this intimate sense of
Hey, Rabbi, if I was the football coach at Auburn, there'd be all kinds of questions right now.
Josh Mandel, good to see you again. Love following you, love catching up with you. You're familiar with the South, you had your time in Tennessee and Knoxville, so it wasn't brand new coming to Auburn, but how'd your time in come? How's your time in compared to your expectations? Because I think we've all watched you there and admired how you plugged in and how the community's accepted you.
Okay, well, again, I appreciate that. And I hope you're hearing all of my words because I'm hearing about half of yours. I think the question was something about comparing Knoxville and Auburn and my expectations about Auburn. Was that right?
Yeah, I'm trying to listen. Really just how your experience is compared to how everything has gone for you at Auburn. Because I think a lot of us have admired how you came in and plugged yourself in such a big part of the community, and then the community's taken you in and loved you so much.
Yeah, you know, Auburn's been great. Auburn has been very good. It's been wonderful. It's been very inclusive. And I really think it's because of, you know, the fact that it is such a strong Christian community, and there's been very little replacement theology taught there. Not exclusively, but so I think that's been, you know, a real positive thing for me. Auburn's a smaller place, and Knoxville was, believe it or not, much bigger. Lots more distractions for my players, and because Auburn is a smaller community, my players are able to come in there and do well. The Auburn student body is amazing. I just got to tell you, and I'm not doing a recruiting thing. This whole Auburn man, woman, love your God, love your country, love your neighbor. It's really real down there, and I find it to be very healthy. We need more diversity, and so we started it together. We Will Scholarship, and that's improving because it's a great place for everybody. There is not a very large Jewish population there at all. And I think, look, Alabama, the University of Alabama deserves a ton of credit for way back in the day, investing in faculty and also the students through Hillel and those other Jewish organizations, fraternities and sororities. I mean, the University of Alabama is a destination of choice for Jewish kids all over the country. My guess and my anticipation is the blending of a larger Jewish population with a Christian population in the state of Alabama. I would anticipate that it's created a very good environment for our Jewish students to go. That would be my anticipation. Now, the more Jewish students there are in places like Michigan or Southern Cal or even in Berkeley, that's where the people that want to oppose us have focused their greatest attention, both in the faculty and in the administration and in the student bodies. And, you know, also, obviously, Michigan has got a very large Palestinian population. That's why some of those congressional leaders in Michigan are Palestinian. The Minnesota's got a huge Somali population. That's why Omar is a congresswoman from there, which, by the way, I think makes our country great, that even in our country, through these small pockets of communities, congressional people can elect leaders that they want to represent them in government. I don't agree with them, and I wish they felt differently about the Jews and the Jewish people in the state of Israel and the Middle East. But I'm actually think it's I'm proud of our country for allowing those voices because they represent their constituents.
I'm going to ask the final question. I promise we would honor that time. You made many comments happy by mentioning the University of Alabama's Jewish Life Campus. I think that's the only pro-Alabama thing you're going to say this afternoon. But I remember when I was at Vanderbilt as a graduate student many moons ago, the president then was Gordon Yee, who went off to Ohio State University. Vanderbilt University did a massive recruitment for Jewish student life with a brand new Hillel, in addition to Jewish fraternities, created a fantastic Judaic studies program. Are there any, I'm backtracking. Alabama is a hot destination for Jewish life for Jewish kids across the country. Is there anything that Auburn is doing to try to have a university where students can learn, feel safe, and have that Jewish life that so many of them have in Tuscaloosa? And Hillels, I don't know if there's a Hillel, but you can, okay, there is. But is there anything in the colleges to do directly target Jewish recruitment?
Yeah, no, well, Rabbi, that's a great call. And that it's like I'm not involved in enough things. That might be something I might need to get even more involved with. But you know, the extent of Jewish life at Auburn is coming over my house to break the fast, or my latkes are unbelievable. I'm just telling you, got my Nana's recipe. I'm happy to share it with any of you. And so they come over for Hanukkah, but I mean, it's only 35 or 40 kids in the Hillel that would come over. And so, but I think in so many ways, it's representative of many Jews in rural America or cities that don't have larger Jewish populations. I mean, it's a lot easier to practice your Judaism in places where you've got friends and neighbors that are going. There is Jewish fraternity there. There is a Jewish sorority there. There is a Hillel there. There's a Hillel director. I'm very proud, and I don't mind. You know, look, I belong to the temple there since its beginning, and I'm able to support the temple in a way that helps it keep the doors open, because there's probably only 20 or 30 paying families that are in the temple in Auburn. They're just not a very big Jewish population there. I was very proud of my son, who last night, he and his new wife made a contribution to the temple, and I didn't have to ask him to do it, and joined, and so yes, Rabbi, and they've got a Jewish basketball coach. I mean, so, and you know, I mean, we're way ahead of the game, and I've got 2 Jews on my staff, my son, and I just hired a graduate assistant. So, you know, all 3 of us, we've doubled the Jewish population of the faculty and staff at Auburn.
Before I let you go, did your players go to Joel City and see the Alabama Roll Tide story? You know what I'm talking about? Everyone knows what I'm talking about. They get a little, oh, we got one word right now. Okay, so I hope that inspired them so they can have War Eagle and Hebrew in the old city. So I guess that takes all of Alabama.
You asked him how much we're going to see of Leor this year, because we all love.
Oh, how much are we going to see of Leor this year? And then we'll let you go.
Rabbi, I think I got some of that, but I always say Roll Tide to my Alabama friends, and I say War Eagle to my and it's, you know, it's kind of like Shalom. It's sort of a universal. It's a universal greeting, and but I do look, Rabbi, blood's thicker than water, and I do try to make a real. I don't want my Alabama friends to root for Auburn. I wouldn't mind them rooting for Auburn basketball, you know, because let's face it, blood is thicker than water.
So on that, my is someone who unconditionally supports the Jewish people, regardless of movement or religiosity. I wear my Zionism proudly. I don't apologize, frankly, for those who disagree regarding my love for Israel. I'm happy to have that conversation. But for the most part, I love God toward Israel and Jewish people. And I want to thank you for embodying these values of being an outspoken say yes to us. Allow Temple Emanu-El to be a place where we can say yes to you. So on behalf of Temple Emanu-El, our leadership, our staff, Josh, to the incredible work you're doing. Good luck with the season, and may God continue to bless your wonderful family and all the things that you're doing. Shana Tova, and have an easy fast. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ray. Shana Tova, everybody. Look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Thank you so much. We can sign off, Coach. This is the awkward time. Okay. Thank you, guys. Like,